Is it time to rethink the end of service benefits in the UAE? That's the subject of today's edition of Inside AB. I'm Jeremy Lawrence, joined here in the studio by Eddie Taylor. Eddie, you wrote a big story about this week. We all know people here are staying for longer, perhaps don't have pensions in their home countries, and increasingly people are saying that therefore we need to rethink end of service benefits here. So can you tell us more about this subject?
Well, there's two things that seem to be the problem with end of service benefit, and that's from both the employee side and the employer side. From the employee side, they're not really sort of structured in a way that kind of really benefits the employee. They're not structured like a traditional pension plan that you would find in somewhere like Europe or the United States. It's based on a formula, it's based on a fixed metric. So, it's about the salary that you're on when you leave and how long you've been in employment. So it's a fixed figure. So it's not index linked, it's not anything to do with compounding, it's got nothing to do with interest rates, anything like that. So it's a set formula. So what that means is even if you've been working for 10 years, you're not taking advantage of all of the things that a traditional pension plan would take advantage of: dollar cost averaging, compounding, all of those kind of things. And it isn't really enough. It's not enough to kind of retire on, and it's capped at 2 years of salary as well. So people are sort of thinking, is it kind of a good enough product to work as some kind of employee benefit? Usually it's probably just enough to pay off debts and get you a ticket home for most people. From the employer side, there's a huge problem with funding these things because it's an obligation that every single employee racks up over time during their time with an employer. And there was actually some statistics from Willis Towers Watson, a consultancy, that says that a fifth of companies in the UAE have got liabilities of $15 million or more tied up in their end of service benefit. Wow. So these two things in conjunction are sort of having people think, well, maybe there's a better way of sorting this out.
So have any ideas been floated to come up with a better system? There's
been lots of rumours. I mean, nothing from a governmental point of view just yet. There was a story in the Gulf News last year that said that proposals had been floated. We spoke to people at Hadef and Partners, which is a law firm that specialises in HR concerns. And they were saying there'd been talk in DIFC of a mandatory pension. But again, this is all, nothing's materialised yet. It's just talk at this time. There is the nearest thing I think we could say to an actual proper plan, a new way of thinking, is from the private sector. And that's Zurich and Mercer have got together to launch a new product called My Savings. And what they're trying to do is kind of persuade employers to bolt this onto their payroll. And it's more of a traditional kind of pension-based saving schemes where every employer has kind of money going into their accounts every single month, and it's paid and employees can choose to kind of make a contribution, employers can match it, and that can be used as an end of service benefit type arrangement. But you're getting all of those advantages of the dollar cost averaging, of going into stocks and shares, of compounding, all of that kind of stuff.
And the choice to pay more as well.
And the choice to pay more. So it can be, and then every single month in your pay slip, you'll see how much you're accruing in your account. And because there are no lock-ins in the UAE, because we don't need the tax efficiency of a traditional pension, because there's no income tax here. So there's not about deferred tax, so there's no lock-ins.
So it could work really, really well, couldn't it?
You'd have thought it would work really well here because we are tax-free. So what you could almost say is that any tax that you might be paying in the UAE, in the UK or the US, for instance, you could pay that out of your salary every month, but it's going straight back to you in the form of a kind of an index-linked, proper, structured savings plan.
Right.
And for an employer, it's also giving them a ready-made, built-in mechanism for allocating funds every single month against
which a lot of them aren't doing.
Which a lot of them aren't doing against the paycheck, against the wage slip, to provide for the end of service benefit.
Right. So clearly, this highlights the importance of savings, doesn't it?
Savings is one of the big problems in the UAE. It's almost like, because we're an expat-based economy, most of the people that are working here in employment are from overseas. They will probably retire to live somewhere else. We know that even if you're from a European country or somewhere like Australia, where the social safety net is actually quite robust, it's becoming more and more expensive business retirement. People are living longer and those safety nets are becoming eroded slightly. So the desire to save and the need to save is becoming, a little bit mismatched. I think there was another statistic. I think it was the National Bonds Corporation said that 85% of UAE residents don't think they're saving enough for retirement. So it's becoming a bit of a problem.
Sounds like a huge problem. Throw this out to the audience. The question, I guess, is, are you saving enough? Do you think your gratuity will be sufficient for your needs when you eventually leave? What's your views on it? Do please post below. Eddie, how do we sum this up then? It sounds like something needs to change.
I think what needs to change is a general sort of attitude shift, really. I don't think necessarily kind of policies or practices need to kind of be changed, but what I do think is there needs to be much more financial literacy and much more financial education that goes in, that it may feel as though you're on holiday or in a beautiful city, you know, the sun shines all year round, there's plenty of things to do. It might feel as though for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we can kind of live hand to mouth and have a wonderful time. But all the years that we're working here, we're not contributing to pensions back home, we're not contributing to social security back home. So you could be sort of, you know, cheating yourself out of quite a large pot of money unless you're making genuine provision every single month. Some people suggest, there's a UK standard for instance, you should be saving 17.5% of your salary every single month. If you've been working 5 years, you need to have saved up 1 year's full salary. If you've been working 40 years, you need to have 12 times your annual salary in order to give you the kind of retirement you want. So if you haven't started, start. And that's got nothing to do with end of service benefit. You have to make your own provision.
There we go. So there's a bit of a warning there, but you know what to do now. You've been watching Inside AB. Please do join us every weekday at 10 a.m. Subscribe, comment, share. Let us know what you think, what I said earlier. Are you saving enough? Do you think the provisions here are sufficient? We look forward to your feedback. See you next time.